Discover College Soccer podcast is sponsored by VIO. VIO is the #1 AI camera solution helping players capture college recruitment videos. Check out their new starter and family options by clicking on the link in the description or visit Discover College Soccer to learn more. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Discover College Soccer. Today, I'm lucky enough to be joined by Coach Yon from Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh. Welcome, Coach.
Thank you.
Yeah,
My pleasure.
thanks for being here. We're talking here after Thanksgiving, end of November. Unfortunately, you're now done with your season, although a great season it was this year for sure. Um, so we're coming up on the December 1st weekend. So are you going East Coast or West Coast on your recruiting visits? Because it looks like we've got the GA event in California, and you got a big event in Raleigh. And you may end up going to either one, but in terms of, are you hitting recruiting heavy now that the season's over?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, honestly, we don't miss a minute. We always plan it. We plan for the best, plan for the worst. So and obviously the worst being getting knocked out of the tournament. So we're dividing and conquering this weekend. Chris was my associate head coach. Chris, he was at the Surf Cup at Silver Lakes. He stuck around for the week, and he's going to go to the GA event up at Norco, and then I will actually be in Tennessee this weekend for the ECNL event in Nashville.
I even forgot that one. Yeah, you got
Yeah, I know
ECNL in Tennessee, and you got Raleigh. Um, so you guys are, I'll say, a bit different on a couple levels. One, just from the academic standpoint, right? I mean, Carnegie Mellon's just an amazing academic institution, and then in terms of Division III, you guys are just a top program. So, are you just looking at 24s right now, or is 24 pretty much wrapped up and you're looking at 25s? Kind of what is your timeline in terms of the recruiting cycles?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. I mean, we are fairly unique in many ways, like you said. So we're done with the class 24. We typically wrap up in the summer as best we can. Well, sometimes we'll pick up a late player for a variety of reasons. But again, typically we're done in the summer. So we will finish the class of 25. That's actually what we're focusing on now. And we'll still watch 26s and 27s that write to us. It's always funny when I get even eighth graders. I always want to be an electrical engineer. I'm like, really? And as an eighth grader, always okay. Yeah, so we'll again be focusing on 25, but we'll watch 26 and 27s over the next year, and we'll same timeline more or less wrap up next summer in July for the class 25 after our camps. And then a lot of that is actually academic more than athletic. It's at that time we can get some feedback from admissions, nothing set in stone, but feedback from admissions on how we can progress with a player at that point. And it is at that point that usually have the end of the year grades from their junior year. So a completed transcript through junior year, and then their senior year classes, which I need to have to make sure that what they want to major in will be the right fit.
Okay. You mentioned camps. Do you guys do your own ID camps? Do you or your staff work other camps? How important are they in your overall recruiting process?
Chris will get out and do more camps. He's the hustler, but he's great. He's such a great face for the program. He's just a wonderful person, excellent coach. I'm very lucky to have him on staff. I feel. Having said that, everybody in our roster has come to one of our camps. It's a little different here than other camps. I get a lot of questions, are you working this camp or that? And my response is, I don't, not because I don't want to, it's more because I'd rather be here at my camps where I feel the value is at if Carnegie Mellon are your top choices. The other camps, I can't necessarily anticipate how much I'm going to work with an individual. We're here, I can guarantee them they're going to get, basically now 2 days, half day, full day, half day of my undivided attention. And we've been, it works. I mean, it's not a perfect system. I know players will fall through the cracks and go to other schools and be like, oh, I missed them, they were here. But, we really feel like it is the best way to see if they're a good fit soccer wise come to our camp, because they actually get to work with us and see if we're a good fit for them as well.
So, I mean, you have a unique challenge again in the fact that you got to find, you're a top program, so you're looking for the top soccer talent, but also the top academic talent, right? And I'm sure it may be even harder for your guys coach versus the girls coach, because girls tend to, just have that They're grade focused a lot of times, more often than not. But how do you kind of manage, when you're at a camp or at an event, trying to figure out, okay, this is somebody who ticks all our boxes, both on the field and off the field.
Yeah, I mean, it's not easy. What I've tried to do over the past year or two is when they write me for the first time, ask them, what do they want to study? Um, Again, I feel Carnegie Mellon is unique, maybe not from all schools, but most in that, like when you apply to Carnegie Mellon, you don't apply to Carnegie Mellon University, you apply to Tepper Business School, College of Fine Arts. So each school has a slightly different requirement academically. For instance, some are surprised when I tell them the requirements for Tepper. They consider business a science here, so they're asking that you take the highest level math and science courses for the most part that your school offers. Um, so that's a little more difficult to know exactly what classes they're taking. But so again, I try to get ahead of it when they first write me, "Hey, Coach Struble, I'm going to be in Tennessee this weekend," and I'll respond if they don't already tell me, "What do you want to study here?" And then I can give them that information, and they can make a decision if they can get those classes in before they graduate or not. So hearing from players earlier actually helps because then they can kind of shape how they're going to progress through their high school because every high school is a little different as well, what they offer and the timeline and how to do it. So I try to get ahead of that as best we can because I don't want them to come to camp. My job, I'm not trying to just take their money. I really want kids to come to camp that not only can play here potentially, but realistically can get in because it's not fair to them. And I go, well, thanks for coming to camp and thanks for your money, but you can't get in. So sorry. So like I said, I try to get ahead of that. And again, that's why we use camps to get to that soccer point and then say, okay, let's look at your transcripts, look at your test scores one last time before we take that next step.
Okay. So in terms of, um, it looks like when you look at your roster, it's very national. You're everywhere, and it sounds like you're going to tournaments all over the country. Um, in Do you guys ever really look at the transfer portal? Anybody interested to say, hey, we want to switch over to Carnegie Mellon, or are you pretty much focused on the incoming freshmen?
Yeah, we don't really go to the transfer portal because of the COVID waiver for the past 2, 3 years. We've been getting, graduates that are saying, hey, I'm going to look at grad school. For instance, we had two on the roster this year and they were wonderful. Um, in addition to a third that stuck around for her fifth year, we had one that stuck around for her fifth year 2 years ago. And I think we're going to have one more this fall or next fall, hopefully. But no, we don't really go to the transfer portal because bluntly, it's really hard to transfer as an undergrad. Uh, if you haven't taken the classes and got the test scores, if you submit them in high school, then it's unlikely that you'll still get in now. So unfortunately, the transfer rate is pretty low, unless you're going to a like institution. Then it's a little different. But even then, it's just very difficult. Not impossible, but difficult. So the grad students have the best chance right now because it's not undergrad, where their classes are pretty full once they get through the admissions process.
Okay. Well, we were talking beforehand. 30 odd years ago, I spent 6 weeks at Carnegie Mellon, so I have a taste for the school, and it is awesome. Um, but I think folks usually know that it's also not the cheapest school in the state of Pennsylvania or in the country. So, um, and I'm not holding you to hard numbers here, but what 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 would somebody be looking at coming in? These are high academic achievers who might be getting big time academic money somewhere else, but maybe not at Carnegie Mellon. So what is it? What's just a normal kind of student athlete coming in on your team looking at in terms of cost, what kind of financial aid, all that kind of stuff?
Honestly, I don't talk money with families because my personal philosophy is really none of my business how much money. And so that, and others will ask. I know, prior coaches in the women's program here, one of the first questions they would ask is, "Can you afford it?" Which I think is a big turnoff. At the end of the day, that's the family's decision. Um, and some will tell me like it's just too expensive, and I 100% respect that. I always tell them you have to put your pillow on your head at night and feel comfortable about your decision, specifically as we're talking about financially right now. So I would say they're across the board. We have families that can write a check, and we have families that really rely on the financial aid they get, which is need based here. I've had players apply for scholarships, outside of Carnegie Mellon and come up with a pretty substantial amount of money As women engineers, as an example, there's a lot of scholarships out there for them if they, do some research and apply. So, and then we have everything in between. The big thing we talk about in our admission, we talk about would be return on investment. Our return on investment at Carnegie Mellon is very high. When our students graduate, they're doing very well. That's one thing I can put my head on the pillow at night and say, okay, I'm never compromising a player by recruiting them there. They just have to decide if it's the right fit. And like you said, can they afford it? And some can't. And, but I also find a lot of the players that look here are looking at like institutions that have similar financial aid, philosophies. So they kind of know what they're getting into, I guess you could say. And again, if they can't, if it just comes down to they can't afford it, I respect them. I totally understand.
Okay. Well, let's talk more about the school. I mean, obviously, I know a lot about it, but I'm sure there's folks who don't or not even know about the history and the reputation. But you've been there a while now. Kind of, what are some awesome things that you enjoy about Carnegie Mellon that your players enjoy? Maybe some things we wouldn't even know just by going through the website.
Yeah, but there's some fun traditions. Perfect example is the fence, right? So we have this painting of the fence, and anybody can paint the fence, but there's some rules. So you have to paint it after midnight. You can't use spray paint, so you'll see sometimes just cans of paint set next to the fence. And to be clear, it's not a big long fence; it's 30 feet long, maybe 40 feet long, but it's your traditional wooden post fence. Now, if you look at it, it looks like it's this enormous post, but that's because there's so many layers of paint on it. So student organizations will paint it, based, everything that's going on now around the world. You'll see, political statements on there. As long as they're appropriate, they'll stay up. There's been inappropriate things put up there that, they've had to paint over. To keep your painting up there, whatever you decide to paint on there, colors, logos, etc., you have to have two people in this box around at all times. So like I've come in during preseason and there's people in tents. So they can constantly, like a fraternity or sorority as an example, constantly have people sleeping in these tents. So they always have somebody in there. So their sorority or fraternity or organization stays on that fence for as long as they want. So it's pretty fun. It's pretty funny to see some of the things that they'll go through to keep their sign up, keep their painting up there. There was one year where an art student took a big chunk out of it. I'm talking like, 2 feet long and like a foot deep. It's very thick paint, and people are in uproar. You messed up our fence. So it's a fun little one. You can't miss it. It's right in the middle. And apparently it goes back to when Carnegie first started the school. It started off with CIT, Carnegie Institute of Technology, which is our engineering school. And then not so far away was a building called Margaret Morrison, which was more or less for the women. So CIT was supposed to be for the men, Margaret Morrison for the women. Again, the story is that when Andrew was starting the school, his mom, Margaret, said, well, if you're going to do something for the men, you got to do something for the women. So it was a professional school for the women in Pittsburgh. And you wouldn't tell now, but again, apparently there used to be this bit of a ravine that there was a bridge that would cross from CIT to Margaret Morrison. And the students would hang out on that bridge and I guess watch the road go by. So when they took that bridge out, they put this fence up as kind of a memory of it, to kind of place to go and hang out by the fence and, socialize. So, like I said, I think that's probably one of the most visible ones on campus that, people see it. They're like, okay, what's the story behind this? And a lot of fun.
I painted the fence the summer of '94, so yes, I can get behind that. Yep. Too funny. Well, and we talk about really the demand, the higher academic rigor, right, at Carnegie
Yep.
Mellon, and going from high school to college and being a college athlete's hard as it is, I'm sure it's even harder at Carnegie Mellon. So really, how do your students really balance the demands of both being an athlete and a high performing, in the classroom?
Yeah, that's because of the reputation of Carnegie Mellon, and because of what we're trying to achieve, our dreams here with the program. That's probably one of the questions I get asked most. Over the years, I've kind of simplified it to soccer is the balance. There's a lot of schools out there similar to Carnegie Mellon, very high rigor. And my personal feeling is to go to schools like this without something else is very difficult because you have no outlet. We have a lot of wonderful international students here, and I've talked to some of them because I teach soccer class, and they've been really good. I'm like, hey, why don't you try it for the men's team? You're fantastic. I'm like, I'm not allowed. I'm here to go to school, and that's it. is sad, right? Because there's so much to experience at any college or university. So, um, like I said, my personal feeling is it is the balance. There's times where I've said to players, you okay, you look a little stressed. Do you need to go study? And sometimes they'll come up to me and say, hey, I've got 3 tests tomorrow. I can't make practice today. Can I go? I'm like, absolutely. That's why you're here. But other times I've tried to send them home and they're like, no, I really need to get out and run around a little bit today. I'm like, well, all right, well, if you need to leave early, let me know. And they're pretty good about asking. So, like I said, I really firmly believe it is a balance. When you get on campus here, it's immediate family. They're here to help you. They're here to support you. They're here to tutor you, guide you along. So, like I said, and I really believe it is the balance. Now, is it easy? No, like you said, we have a pretty tremendous support network within the university as well, which I know is very helpful for all of them. But I think ultimately they all know that I know that they're here to go to Carnegie Mellon first. Soccer is kind of the icing on the cake, and then if they need to miss something, I completely understand. They know I support that.
Okay. Well, let's take it back to, maybe mid-October or something, middle heart of the season. Kind of walk me through what a typical week would look like for a player in terms of winter classes, practice, meals, game cadence, all that kind of thing. What would one be in for in a normal week?
Yeah, I mean, October is conference, so that's fairly unique. We're a pretty unique conference in that I think we're the only D3 conference that flies the games. So I'll kind of weave that into that. So we're pretty lucky. We have our Guestling football field, and then we have our soccer-specific soccer field. We share that with the men in the fall, so we obviously can't both practice at the same time. We do have a moratorium on classes from 5 to 6, so we do have a small block of time where there's no classes that are supposed to take place. So that's obviously prime time, so we always want to take that time for training. So if one team's practicing from 5 to 7, the other team will potentially practice from 7 to 9. And then, like I said before, if somebody has a lab in the evening, which they do, they'll come late to practice, leave early, and in some cases, unfortunately, not be able to make it that evening. Now, in the event that we have too many that we feel is going to impact the quality of the practice, we'll actually go in the morning. So we do have some morning practices. We usually do that morning practice the day after a day off, so they get to bed a little earlier. I always tell everybody they have a love hate with morning practices. They hate to get up, but it'll dawn. I'm like, oh wow, I have all afternoon off. I can get some to eat, take a nap, get some homework done. Watch do a little something else. So like I said, they have a love hate with it. Now our conference kind of did a nice thing where we used to have double game weekends. You play on Friday, Sunday, and you do that twice. They did split that up, but we still have some of those throughout the fall. So we'll have one next fall. We'll be gone Thursday through Sunday. So we'll fly out Sunday to, actually, I can't remember, but we'll fly out on the Sunday. I'm sorry, fly out on the Thursday, play Friday evening, travel again Saturday, play Sunday, and then fly back home Sunday night. Non-conference, I do my best not to schedule games that are going to take them away from class, but obviously with conference games like that, they're going to miss a little class. Thankfully, we have good relationships, with deans and professors. So I proctor exams and quizzes on the road frequently, almost every trip we take. So we do work well with, the professors on campus. And so it allows obviously the students to take a little stress off. It's still stressful, but take a little stress off knowing that they can take it on the road. And team meals obviously are weaved into that. We do have a wonderful strength and conditioning staff. So during the fall, they'll lift twice a week, and in the spring, they'll lift 3 times a week. Yeah, I mean, that's a typical week, throughout the week. We obviously have days off. We try to give them, sporadically throughout the fall, an extra day off from time to time, so they have, can really recover. But yeah, that's kind of a typical week. Nothing is exactly the same every week, but we do our best to work around players' schedules so they're not missing practice and they're not missing class.
Okay. Well, let's talk a little bit more about the team. I know, we were talking recruiting before, but is there a roster size that you're trying to hit each year you find is ideal?
That's a tough one. We were just having that conversation. We have a lot of talented players here, but obviously game day there's only 11 that are truly happy. So we hover around 32. This year we're at 33, but we had some grad students come in and we felt they were going to be positive influences, and they were again excellent. We toy with going a little lower. I think the challenge we have with the number is, um, I tell you we start with 32, and then usually I have 3 to 4 goalkeepers. So then that brings down obviously 28 field players. And unfortunately, at any given time, we'll have 1 or 2 true injuries where they're out. Maybe somebody was hurt, they're just coming back. Somebody's sick. They've got freshmen tend to get sick on every campus in the country. Uh, and then you just have some again that are missing for class. Again, that's why they're here. So we quickly go from 32 to 22 in one practice, and now we're like, can we play 11-11 today? I think so. So having a larger roster is pretty important for all those reasons. So it seems daunting.
So in terms of coaches, I mean, you mentioned Chris and that kind of thing when we talk about roster size, but what about the roster of coaches? Who do you have helping out? What are their roles? What about other staff, maybe in the athletic department that help out with the team? What does that look like?
Yeah, so there's myself, the associate head coach, Chris Moraga. We have an excellent goalkeeper coach who, and frankly, can any given day take the program and run the session. He's outstanding. Michael Zauzik, our trainer. He's 100% part of our staff. Sal Vallejo. We're pretty lucky to have him. He's been around. It's a major university. So, uh, so again, we have an excellent staff. I mean, again, I mentioned earlier, players are injured, and he does everything he can to get them back in a healthy way. And it's tough. It's tough to get rid of. It's a it's a reality of college sports. Um, we have the head of our strength and conditioning staff, Alan Narrow. He's excellent. We've now started to integrate more sports psychology. A gentleman named Donato, which we're going to really utilize more this spring as we become more involved. Yeah, I mean, we got pretty deep staff, I think, and incredible support from our administration and what we're trying to achieve as a program and as an athletic department.
Oh, awesome. Well,
Yeah.
now you specifically though, as the head gaffer here, how would you describe kind of your style of coaching and the team style of play you're trying to implement there?
Yeah, I think I read this somewhere online. I think I'm tough but fair. I would tell everybody I'm not an easy coach to play for. And that I'm demanding. I mean, and it takes demands to achieve the dream of winning a national championship. But I try to be fair with what we do. Not every it's tough. Everybody has their perspective as a player, and I understand that. Which is why I always say it's so important to communicate, right? So try to encourage players to come talk to me when they're confused or have issues, and some are better than others. And the ones that are better, we move forward. And the ones that find it difficult, it becomes difficult. Right? So, but yeah, I mean, like another, like I stole this quote from somebody a while ago. He said he looked at him, he said, coaches are like a pitcher of water, and the players are like a little shot glass. And we're just going to keep pouring that water in there, and some's going to stay in that glass, some's going to flow out, but hopefully the parts that you need stay in that glass. And I kind of like that. So point being, we give a lot of information. Looking back in the fall, this may be a little too much information, so we're going to have to make some adjustments on that. But we want players continue to develop here. I think some coaches have a philosophy of they should be technically sound by the time they get to college, where we firmly believe we're going to continue to work on technical areas year round. Others will maybe separate. Here's our starters. Here's our bench players. But I firmly believe that everybody is equally as important. So everybody's integrated in every session. We don't separate starters from non-starters. They're mixed in. And don't get me wrong. There's certainly times like when we play 11-11, where all right, we're going to take a look at the starting 11 and move players around from there. But try to be as equitable as I can. But at the end of the day, not everything's going to be fair and even. But we do our best.
Okay. Well, we've talked about a lot. You really appreciate all the info you've given us. But last question here, and that's if there was one piece of advice, one nugget of information you wish all parents, players, families going through this recruiting process knew, what would that be?
I'm going to kind of well, number one, they should probably know that for Division III programs, they can communicate at any time. That's probably one of the biggest things. I get a lot of players to say, I know you can't talk to us yet. I'm like, well, actually, we can talk to you anytime. And having said that, along with that would be, players should reach out. They should be the ones communicating. They should be the ones making the email, whatever, where they're communicating personal, dear coach, I'm interested in university because it's a good school and you have a good soccer program is a little generic and tells me that you're writing that saying you want 100 people, 200 some cases. Um, so be specific and because we read your emails, at least I do, and I try to get some feedback as best I can based on those emails. So we want to make sure that you're writing to us, first just because you've seen our school on a list somewhere or you've heard we have a good computer science program. Like, why else are you interested in the university? There's got to be some depth to why you're interested, and I think that goes for any school.
Couldn't agree more. Well, Coach, really appreciate the time. Wish you the best of luck to you and all your coaches on your recruiting trips this weekend. And if you get down to Bradenton for any of the events down here, Lakewood Ranch, Florida area, give me a shout. We'll grab a cup of coffee or something. All right.
Sounds great.
All right. Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. It's Matt from Discover College Soccer. I hope you're enjoying the podcast, whether that's on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. I also wanted to let you know about the Discover College Soccer Study Table. This is our brand new online portal that is complete with a 14-part online course giving you all of the ins and outs of the college soccer recruiting process. There's also a wealth of resources such as checklists, templates. There's the spreadsheets that have every soccer program in the country along with their coaches, their contact information, their social media information, some basic stats about the school and more. Plus there's an online community where you can ask your questions, share your wins, your losses, any questions that you may have around the college soccer recruiting process. It's all there at the Discover College Soccer study table that you can find at discovercollegesoccer.com/study table, and hopefully we will see you there.